Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already guessed, I have a guest today. This is George, he's my fiance and I love him very much. And today he said he was going to do a video with me. Yeah, basically, as you can see in the title, we're just going to talk about our top 5 favourite books, give or take. And we have a few kind of
things we both like.
Yeah, basically, so there are books that we both like that we didn't want to include because obviously we want to talk about different books. So special mentions, that's the word. Harry Potter. We both love Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Like, it's Harry, you know, it's Harry Potter. So we both love Harry Potter, so we decided not to include it in this video because we thought, well, we might as well have different books to talk about. I also want to mention that I absolutely love the Octonomy as well, but I did like a full 20-minute review on it recently, so I feel like I should give other books a chance. So yeah, obviously that was a special mention as well, and it's very up there on my top favourite books ever. So before we delve into these books, just so you know that I will list the books that we talk about down below, and any book that is in that list, here is a spoiler warning because we may spoil the premise of the book. We don't intend to, but just as we're talking about it, something may slip out, so spoiler warning here. Would you like to start?
No, you can go first.
I'll go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are like no particular order apart from the last two, which are my absolute 2 favourites of all times. So I will go with this one first. This is Dark Matter by by Michelle Paver. If you haven't already guessed by many of my videos, I absolutely love horror. I love atmospheric books that give me that kind of sense of dread. And this basically follows the story of a group of explorers that travel up to the Arctic. Basically, just stuff goes wrong and they're in this little cabin.
It's a very haunted place.
Yeah, oh yeah, you've read it as well,
have,
of course. Yeah, it's very atmospheric. Weird things happen all the time. And basically one thing leads to another and the main protagonist ends up in this little cabin in the Arctic where it's dark 24/7 whilst he's there. And he ends up on his own, minus the dogs. He's got working huskies with him.
He doesn't like dogs though.
But he does not like dogs. Apart from one of them. He likes one of them. Yeah, I devoured this in one evening and I could not put it down, and it just made me so spooked. I know you didn't feel as spooky, did you? You didn't enjoy it as much as I did.
But I don't get scared from books like you do.
No, yeah, and I just love horror. Like, I absolutely adore horror. So yeah, that is one of my top favourite books of all time. Okay, so just another special mention, because obviously I could only pick 5 and I couldn't decide between the 2, and George said I wasn't allowed to talk about them, but I was going to talk about it anyway.
You sound like such a bad person.
And this is Wakenhyrst by Michelle Paver again, so both the same author. And again, just so atmospheric, so dread-filling when you're reading it. This is a story about a Edwardian manor in Suffolk and a young girl who moves there, and it's just so atmospheric. I love both of them. I love Michelle Paver's writing. Both 5 out of 5. Absolutely love them. Okay. Sorry, I had to squeeze that in there.
Sorry, I knew you would do. I've got an extra book with me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're giving me a hard time.
Yeah, I brought 6 books to take down.
Okay. Alright, well, let's go on then. What's your...
The first one is The Mayfly by James Hazel. It's about an ex-detective inspector from the London police force, which is the Met, who becomes a lawyer. And he always ends up hired to be an investigator still, even though he's a lawyer. But it takes some really weird twists and turns, this book. And we got it randomly in a Box of Stories bundle.
It's a Box of Stories book. Quickly, use code 30% off.
No.
Use code Amy's Book Nook to get 30% off a Box of Stories. Link down below. And
I just chose it at random, not knowing what it was about. And I love thriller. It's one of my go-to genres. And I read it in like 2 days. I absolutely loved it, and I rated this 5 out of 5. Yeah. I quite like Charlie Priest as a person. He's quite likeable. Like, he's got money, but he doesn't flaunt it. He drives a beat down old Volvo estate from like the 90s, which is hideous, even though he owns an Aston Martin.
Charlie Priest is the main character in the book, by the way.
Yeah, it's the first in a series of 3, and I hope the guys make writing more. On Twitter, he doesn't seem to be mentioning it. James Hazel.
That's a shame.
I know. I think he will be doing that because they're really good books. He's very funny. The person who wrote them was a lawyer as well, so it's quite accurate in terms of the law. But yeah, I absolutely love The Mayfly. It's one of my favourite books of all time. I highly recommend it.
What was the other 2 called? What are they?
The Ash Doll. Yeah, and I can't remember the third one. But they're all really good. They're all fantastic.
Would you say Mayfly is your favourite one out of the 3?
Yeah, definitely. The first is always the best, is it? Especially when you go in with low expectations of no expectations.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind on how funny it was and how much I loved it.
Yeah, he's always recommending it to everyone now.
And no one reads it.
My brother's read it.
Yeah, but he didn't like Charlie Priest.
No, he didn't. Everyone has different preferences though, and I do want to read them. I will, but obviously I have a lot of books that I need to get to, so I promise I will read it though.
That's right. As well as this one.
Yes, I'm reading it this month. Oh my god. Okay, so I figure I did horror the last one, so I'm gonna not do horror this one, because I've got a couple of horrors. This book I read last year, and it was a book that I found on TikTok, and it just blew me away. And it is Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens. Oh, I don't even know where to start. You got halfway through this, didn't you? And you didn't.
I got like 100 pages in, but it's just so sad.
Yeah, it's very heartbreaking, I remember.
You feel so sorry for this little girl.
I know, yeah. Honestly, poor Kaya. Like, she goes through it. So it's about this young girl, Kaya, who ends up living out on the marshes. Where is it? North Carolina coast. And she ends up basically being abandoned as a young child. Like, she's like 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah, one by one, all the family leaves her.
Yeah, and basically she just brings herself up out on the marshes, and she earns money by collecting mussels and fish and then selling it, and it's just her kind of coming of age story of her trials and tribulations of what she goes through. It's also delves into discrimination, basically, because she is seen as the marsh girl and she tries to go to school and basically is just completely bullied, so she ends up bringing herself up, and it's very sad, as George can testify.
Yeah, I was reading it at work and I just like couldn't. I was like,
yeah, he was really, really sad and he literally couldn't finish it. But it's just so beautiful, and as well, the author who wrote it is actually a naturalist, and she writes nature books as well. So you can see that in the writing, and she really delves into the nature of the marsh.
It's very, very detailed, the marsh.
Very, very detailed. All the, especially the bird life as well. She really delves into it, and I am a conservationist for my occupation. I work with nature and wildlife, so obviously it really spoke to me, this book. And I absolutely loved it. So, it's also a murder mystery.
Yeah, I didn't get that far.
No, about halfway through, it becomes a murder mystery.
You said it gives off To Kill a Mockingbird vibes.
It does, yeah. But yeah, honestly, it's just beautiful, and I really, really recommend it. 5 out of 5, obviously. What's your next one?
Eden's Gate.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, you've got to have these. This is a lit RPG. So it's, imagine World of Warcraft in a book. Mm-hmm. Essentially, the main person is a nerd who just works and has a girlfriend and plays video games. I can relate. And his girlfriend buys him these 2 VR headsets.
Again, you can relate.
Yeah, I have a VR headset. And basically, they go into it and they get everyone who's in the game. There's like 5 million users logged in at the current time. They get murdered essentially from the headset.
So then they're stuck in this game.
They're stuck in the game.
But their bodies are dead.
Yeah, so their conscious has been uploaded, but their bodies are dead on Earth. It's not just everything that's happening in the game. The creator of the game did create a link between the real world and Eden's Gate. That's the world. But it follows the protagonist who's trying to find his girlfriend, because you just spawn in at a random point. You don't spawn next to a person or in a certain location after you get out like the training bit. But it's part 1. The 7th book is coming out hopefully this year. The author writes about updates on Facebook quite frequently. It's by Brody. It's really good. I highly recommend it. I absolutely love it. I've read it twice now, the entire series twice.
You read it first on your iPad, didn't you?
Yeah, because I got it. It's free on Kindle Unlimited if you have that, and then I found out there were physical copies, and I bought every one of them.
Because you love them that much.
They're just so good. I love the artwork as well. That's going to change apparently.
I hate it when covers change midway through a series.
He's going to bring out one in every series, every style, I think.
So you have to rebuy them all.
That's what it looks like currently.
You have to rebuy them all now.
Yeah, I probably will do because I really love them. They are fantastic.
Why do I think I'll be buying you the presents
probably.
and Christmas and I'll be buying those, guys.
It's such an interesting world. It's very similar to like the Elder Scrolls, like Morrowind and Oblivion.
I really want to read them. I feel like I'd really enjoy them.
Yeah, you really would because it follows him and it's I love it so much. I don't really like the protagonist that much at first, but he does grow on you. He's as he levels up, he does literally like grow up as well.
Sounds so good.
But it's like Lord of the Rings as well. It's got a lot of elements from that. Edward Brody's a giant nerd as well. But yeah, I highly recommend that one. That was a 5 out of 5 stars for me as well because I read them on holiday, didn't I? When we were in Rhodes.
Yeah, I remember.
Absolutely loved Eden's Gate.
I just realised. So I've got another horror.
Shocker.
I know. But obviously I don't have any physical copies of my favourite author of all time, but I feel like I should mention it.
Oh yeah.
So I absolutely, because you spoke about Rhodes, and I remember reading Darcy Coates to you when we were in Rhodes.
Yeah, I like to fall asleep to like TV and stuff, and we didn't have that in the Rhodes, so Amy read to me.
Yeah, I read him a horror story of all things to sleep.
This is how things don't scare me. I fell asleep to it and was fine.
So one of my favourite authors of all time is Darcy Coates, and she is an Australian writer and predominantly, well, she just writes horror. But she writes mainly like ghost stories, haunted houses, haunted mansions. She does branch out.
She did zombies.
One of my favourite series that she did was it called the Black Winter series?
I
can't remember.
Zombies are cool though.
Or like the Dark Black Winter? I'm pretty sure it was Black Winter. I got it right. Yeah, it's a Black Winter series and it's Quadrilogy. There are 4 books in them. And I just love that series so much. I've read it twice now. And that is a special mention, but I do not have physical copies. They're all on Kindle. So I can't show them. But yeah, that's another special mention. Not really sticking to the whole 5 books here, are we?
We just talk about books, essentially.
Yeah. Okay, another one, which is just an absolute classic, all-time classic horror. And it is The Shining by Stephen King. Shock horror. No surprise there. It's fantastic. If you enjoy horror, then you need to read this book. It was one of the first books that I read when branching out into reading horror, because I love horror movies and horror shows, things like that, TV. And I used to watch a lot of those, and I didn't do a lot of reading. So one of the first kind of authors that I branched out in for reading horror was Stephen King, because obviously it's like, when you think of horror, you think of Stephen King, don't you really?
Yeah, I think of George A. Romero, but again, I like zombies, I don't really like Stephen King's writing.
True. Yeah. Honestly, it's just fantastic. It follows a story, if you've never heard of it, follows the story of Danny and his mother and father his dad gets a job as a caretaker at a hotel for the winter while it's closed because it gets snowed out and you can't get in or out, so they have to have someone looking after the hotel, keeping it warm, keeping it running.
I thought it followed the dad.
Well, it's the story of the family, but Danny has got this ability called The Shining, and basically he can see ghosts, essentially. And this hotel is obviously extremely haunted. And stuff goes down, and it's fantastic and eerie and atmospheric. Again, I have the thing for, I'm not really one to jump scare. If there are like jump scares in movies, like they frighten me, but I'm not.
Apart from Paranormal Activity.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Different level.
Yeah, different level. But yeah, honestly, if you are branching out into horror, please read The Shining by Stephen King. It is absolutely fantastic, and it's I do struggle with some of Stephen King's writing because he just has so many characters, and he's like, with his big books like The Stand, that I just lost count. I lost count of the characters. But this one, there's literally like 6. So it's a lot easier to follow, but it's just so atmospheric and it's so good.
You'll see it referenced everywhere as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, The Simpsons did a Treehouse of Horror episode on it. Like,
yeah.
The elevator scene with the blood.
Like, it's popular for a reason because it's fantastic. So, yeah, 5 out of 5. That's my third book. Not like I've already mentioned, like 6.
This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay.
Oh yeah, you love this book.
Yeah, I read this really fast as well. It's so funny. It's also heartbreaking. If you don't know what it is, it's one of the best-selling books from a junior doctor. He wrote a load of diaries when he was a junior doctor. He's not a doctor anymore. Because
if you read the book, you'll find out why.
Yeah. The entry on which you find out which is it's heartbreaking. There's a lot of heartbreaking moments in here, but it's also really funny. Adam Kay is now a full-time author as well as a comedy writer, and he also had a band. I remember back when we were in high school, he released that song. It's the Amateur Transplants about trains. I can't remember what the song's called. It's really funny though. I
think the fact that it's non-fiction and all these stories are true just makes it that more heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's really awful. He was he became a doctor in gynecology. So it's you wouldn't. Well, there was obviously a lot of heartbreaking gynecology, you know.
Yeah.
Babies.
Yeah.
But it's so funny and it's really worth a read. And he's got another book as well called The Night Shift Before Christmas, which is just like the extra stuff. I do. It's upstairs, on my bookshelf.
That's like a Christmas special.
Yeah, it's just like the stuff that didn't make it into this book, but it's so funny. I've read it like 3 times now, and it's still really good. I highly recommend that one. Adam Kay's just really funny. He's a lovely person by the sounds of it. Also a bit of a... I can't swear.
You can't swear.
Bit of a punk.
No swearing allowed on this channel.
You could bleep it.
I could do. I'm not that gifted with my editing.
True. Tom could do it.
Okay. Would you like to swear?
He's a bit of a but in a good way. Like, I'm a bit of a at times, but in a good way. Yeah.
Moving on from that, this is my second to last favourite book, and these last 2 will probably be in order of my top first and second book of all times.
I didn't know you liked that book.
You didn't know I liked the book?
I bought you that one.
You did buy me this book. It's Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I feel like most of the books I've chosen are really obvious, classic. I don't know.
Well, according to Sheldon Cooper, it's a perfect book because he's too proud.
Yeah.
And she's too prejudiced.
There you go.
It's right in the name.
That's a review right there.
Yeah.
No more words needed.
That's it. Right, onto my book.
Yeah, I'll just put it down. Oh, I love you.
I love you too. Do you realise what I was calling?
Yeah, it's a classic for a reason. If you haven't read it, you should read it. I grew up...
If you can deal with the language
Yeah,
used.
if you can read it. It is classical literature.
It was written a long time ago by a woman called Jane Austen.
It was written in 1813. It was first published. So, yeah, George bought me this beautiful version of it. Yeah, it literally just follows a woman who has too much prejudice and a man who has too much pride. It is the pinnacle of enemies to lovers romance, so to speak. Classical literature, so it's obviously very difficult to read if you're not used to that type of writing.
You like that kind of period drama kind of thing, don't you?
Yeah, I grew up with my mum showing me so many period dramas, and I also grew up with the TV show of Pride and Prejudice. Not the movie, the TV show.
Colin Firth?
Colin Firth is the only Mr. Darcy, and I will fight you. Psh. People choosing the movie Mr. Darcy over the...
Who's the movie? I know Natalie Portman's in the...
I don't even know. See, I don't even know. That's why it's just not as good, in my opinion. It's not as good. No. It's an absolute classic, and I just absolutely love it, and I've got about 4 copies of it. But this beautiful one, George got me. And it's one of my favourite books, like inside and outside.
You watch it all the time as well, and you're feeling sad as well.
Literally, it's the one thing that if I'm having like a really bad day, if I stick it on, I am content. That is my second favourite book of all time. I feel like my viewers, if you've been watching me for a while, you'll know what my first favourite's going to be. It's not like I keep it a secret. But anyway, let's move on to yours.
So, my next book is Ready Player One. It's a movie, as you probably were aware of, because it was massive, directed by Steven Spielberg. It stars Wade Watts as a nerd, really. Quite in a poor area where he lives, called the Stacks, which is a load of caravans, or what they call them in America, trailers, stacked on top of one each other in Ohio. It's Ohio. It's based around a video game called The Oasis, which is virtual reality. and how there's a neat massive Easter egg hunt, and whoever completes this Easter egg hunt becomes the owner the owner of the Oasis,
otherwise known as the Owena.
The Owena. That's not their actual title, by the way, although it should be. And there are bad guys who are trying to put ads into the game.
Earn money from it, basically.
Yeah, it varies differently from the movie, though. I prefer the book to the movie. Not saying the movie's bad, but I prefer the book because I read it first before the movie came out. The only thing that the book and movie share similarities are the name and the overall plot point. Everything else is completely different. But yeah, I absolutely love it. The romance in the book's just as cringy as it is in the movie. But not to say it's bad. Some people like that kind of romance. It's a very nerdy kind of thing. It's a really good book. I rate it 4 out of 5 stars. It's not a 5 out of 5. I'd love to know. So there was something called the Resource Wars in the book. I'd love a prequel around that. I think that'd be fascinating. And yeah, it's just a really good book. There was a sequel that was also really good. I gave that about 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, you didn't like it as much as the first, did you?
It was just very grim. Like, very dark book. And considering what happens in this book.
Very different.
Yeah. But not to say, again, it's really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's nice because it's one of the books that doesn't say now a feature film.
Oh yeah, it was one of the old ones.
Yeah, this is before the film came out.
I read it before it was popular.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this book and I highly recommend it for anyone who likes the sound of Eden's Gate or just likes the sound of it in general. If you like video games, you're probably going to like it. It's full of 80s pop culture because James Halliday, the person who created the Oasis, grew up in the 80s and grew up on Atari and stuff like that. The Commodores.
Drives a DeLorean, doesn't he?
Yeah, in the film he does.
Oh, does he not in the book?
Not straight away, no. But yeah, that's how much it differs. But yeah, it's really good and I thoroughly enjoy it.
I've only got one left, so do you want to talk about your other one and then I'll talk about mine then?
Yeah. So my next one is 50/50 by Steve Cavanagh. It's written by him. He used to be a lawyer as well. See a theme here.
Yeah, you like lawyer.
Yeah, I also like John Grisham as well, who writes a lot of like lawyer-based books. You know, remember the Tom Cruise movie we watched when we went to go see Bella for the first time? The Firm.
Yeah.
That's a good film. You've not seen The Firm? Watch The Firm. Tom Cruise when he was younger. It's fantastic. Looks no different.
I know, he has not aged a day.
Scientology.
It is?
Yeah. Also, all the money, I suppose.
Yeah,
anyway,
money helps.
Moving on. Yeah, so it's about two sisters who call the police in New York City, the NYPD as they are known. They call them from different points in their father's house, claiming that their other sister has murdered their father.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. It follows the defense attorney for one of the sisters. I can't remember the names. But the lawyer is called Eddie Flynn. He used to be a con artist before he became a lawyer. He only takes on people who he actually believes are innocent, so he chooses the one he believes is innocent. And it's really gripping. I didn't realise it was part of a series. I read it, I think it's like 4th in a series of 5 or 6 books. It's fantastic though, but yeah, I highly recommend that one. It's written from Eddie's point of view, the killer's point of view, as well as I think both sisters. I can't remember.
A while ago, you read it last year, didn't you?
I did. It's when we went to go and see the girl who wants to come in. I'll go let in a second.
You can let her in. I'll come some cuddles.
Okay.
There we go. There's my girlie.
That's Bella.
This is Bella. She's our little baby.
She's 7.5 months old.
7.5 months.
If you don't know about English Springer Spaniels, they are hard work. If you don't know that she's a working English Springer Spaniel, she's even harder because she has full of energy and she wants to go back outside. Yeah, it's a really good novel. It's gripping. You don't know who the killer is. It's such a great idea. And I bought all these other books because they're just fantastic. I'm currently listening to 13 on audiobook.
Is it good so far?
It's really good. I listened to 5 chapters when I was out walking Bella, but yeah, highly recommend 50/50 as well. If you like John Grisham or any form of like thriller from the point of view of a lawyer, because I don't really like books from the point of a policeman or a detective. I just find it really dull. It's been done to death.
There's so many of them.
I like it from the point of view from an outsider because it's harder as well because you don't have access to all the systems that police do.
Yeah.
So like,
I feel like every thriller is DC something something.
DCI or DS.
Like as soon as I read that now, I'm like,
read it. It's good.
it's good. Okay, so my last one.
Yeah.
My favourite book of all time. What is it, George?
It's Goodnight, Mr. Tom. I already knew that. I just playing you.
Goodnight, Mr. Tom by Michelle Magorian. Read it. Alright, so what's your last one?
It's Goodnight, Mr. Tom. Read it. I actually haven't read this, but I'm going to. But Amy said it's going to make me cry. I don't like crying, but I do it far too often.
I don't think it'd make you like cry. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
You'd be amazed.
It's pretty sad. It's so.
I didn't cry at Toy Story 3 though.
No. I read this when I was about 10. It is middle grade. I'd say in its language, it's easy to read, but the premise and kind of the things that it talks about is much more adult.
It's about, let me try and guess it and see if I remember it correctly. Is it from the point of view of Tom? Or the boy?
Both.
So it's about this man who took in a child evacuees during World War II.
Yeah.
They go and live in the countryside because it's not safe in London because of all the raids that happen during the day and night.
It follows the story of William Beach, who is an evacuee. He lives in London with his mother.
He's the child, by the way.
Yes, he's a child. And it's basically just his story of him. He moves to the countryside
With Mr. Tom.
who is a recluse, and he keeps to himself after the loss of his wife. And it's just a story of William bringing Tom out of his shell and Tom bringing Willie out of his because Willie came from quite a bad background in London, basically. What?
Willie.
Oh, God. You guys, I'm marrying a child. I'm going to marry a child in a man's body.
She said Willie.
Basically, it's just beautiful, and if you haven't read it, please do. It is my favourite book, and I literally talk about it all the time. And it's just so heartwarming and just incredible. And I love any books or stories around World War II. I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, World War II is very interesting.
This is my last book. It is my favourite book of all time, and
I'm going to read it eventually. We can cry together.
be emotional.
Yeah.
Would you read a bit? I'd love to read it again. It's been a couple of years since I read it last. There's also a movie of Goodnight, Mr. Tom, and it's fantastic as well. It's quite old.
That's what my mum loves.
The movie,
Yeah.
it's just beautiful.
Hi, Mama, I made it.
So yeah, that is my last book of my top 5 books. It ended up being about 8.
But books are good though, aren't they?
Books are great. I love books. So you've got one last one.
Yeah, this is my favourite book of all time. If you grew up in England, you probably would have read this in high school. I didn't because I was in the dumbs English. I read Of Mice and Men, which is also really good. Really sad if you've not read that or watched
I've
the
never
movie.
read that, you know.
Oh, it's a tearjerker.
Yeah, I've never read that.
Yeah. Oh. Do you know what it's about?
No.
It's about mice and men.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Facts.
Like it.
To Kill a Mockingbird. We mentioned it before. It's one of my favourite books of all time. It's about a black man in the Deep South in America during the 1950s, I think it is, give or take. And it's about the trial. He was accused of raping a white woman. And it's from the perspective of a little girl called Scout, whose father, Atticus, is representing the man. And it's from her perspective about growing up in that kind of era while that big event's going on. And it's a heartwarming tale, really. I absolutely love it.
And it's also really depressing.
Yeah, it is.
The racism that is intoned in this book is just so difficult to read.
Yeah, it's awful, but I fell in love with this book. I read it so fast. I didn't think I'd like it because, again, it's a hard read, but I just read it really fast. I loved it so much. And yeah, it's my favourite book of all time. And people are always surprised when I say that. People are just going to hear Bella trying to get in, aren't they?
I know, honestly. Go on, make your joke.
Would you look at the time?
He literally hid that so long ago.
Time! We're out of time!
We're out of time. Time to wrap up.
No time. We actually have like plenty of time.
We have
in
a
here.
lot of time.
We have a lot of time, but I use it a lot.
Time.
It's good in pie. I like the smell of time.
It's strong. Anyway.
No time.
Thank you so much for being here and joining us. We really, really appreciate you all being here. If you want to see more videos with George, let me know. Because, you know.
I got time on my hands. I'm going to go for a nap after this.
You've got time in your hands?
Oh yeah!
Yeah, he's always around. We just kind of, well, we literally live together, so he's always there in the background when I'm filming, so why not just stick him in front of the camera? So thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in any more of my videos or stuff that I do, all my other social medias are linked down below, and if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe.
Make sure you click the notification bell.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining and listening to us ramble about books, and if you enjoyed it, please let us know in the comments down below.
I'm happy to do more videos.
And I really enjoyed you being here, it was really good fun. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the next one.